partitions. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to recognize fractions by breaking shapes into equal parts. First, I wanted to review some of the vocabulary that you will be needing to know for this lesson. Whole. When we talk about a whole, it means all of something. As you can see, this is the whole circle is shaded. And when you write a whole, it's a whole number. Now, when we talk about breaking the object into equal parts, that's when we get into fractions. When it's less than one whole, so it turns into 1/4, because one part is shaded and there are 4 total parts. So a fraction is when we break a whole into equal parts. Another word that is important to know is numerator. The numerator is a number on top of the fraction. This is the number that goes on the top. This number usually represents either the total number of shaded parts or unshaded parts, or eaten or leftover, depending on what problem you are solving. Another word is denominator. This talks about the number on the bottom of the fraction. And this number is always the total number of parts. So as you can see, in this fraction, there would be 8 total parts. Some fraction names that you will need to know are halves, and that's when you break a whole object into two equal parts. Fourths is when you break it into 4 equal parts, and eighths is when you break it into 8 equal parts. Now I wanted to show you some examples. Of these fractions. As you can see, this is a whole. And all of these fractions put together equal a whole. So we always start off with our whole. Now when you break your fraction into 2 parts, as you can see, the name of this is halves, as we talked about before. If I were to take 1/2, what is left over would be 1/2. So as you can see, you write it the same way as what is written on this fraction. Then we have fourths. This whole is broken into 4 equal parts. Each part is considered 1/4 of the whole. Remember again, this is the denominator and this is the numerator. The denominator represents that there are 4 equal parts, and the 1 represents each part. Then we move on to eighths. This whole is cut or divided into 8 equal parts, as you can see. Again, the denominator here is 8 because there are 8 equal parts, and then the 1 represents each part or each piece of the whole. Okay? So these are examples of fractions because they are all cut or partitioned into equal parts. Now I wanted to look at some examples of other fractions. Pardon my circle because it's not the straightest circle. Now, would this be considered a fraction? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, there is 4 parts, but this would not be a fraction because these are not equal parts. Okay, so that would not be an example. This would be an example of a fraction. Let's try another one. Here, I've cut this circle into 2 parts. Again, this does not look like this because the parts are not equal. As you can see, the part on the right-hand side has more space. So this would not be an example. Let's try another. Now I've divided my circle into 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, yes. This would also not be considered a fraction because the parts are not equal. As you can see, this side has a lot more than these 3 pieces. Okay, let's try another one. If I cut my circle like this, are my parts equal? Yes, and there are 4 equal parts, and so this would be a fraction. And this, if I shaded one, it would be 1/4. If I shaded 2 of these, then we would have 2/4. 3 of these, it'd be considered 3/4. And then 4 shaded parts would be 4/4, which is also equal to 1 whole, like the whole that we had talked about here. Well, boys and girls, I hope that this has introduced you or refreshed your memory on fractions, and I look forward to seeing you in class. Have a good day.